welcome to our 30-minute meeting. Thank you for being hosts. Thank you for attending. We want to share, we have some topics we want to cover with various people, which would be useful for discussion among the hosts, 5 minutes each. So that, we stay at 5 minutes so everybody gets a chance.
I'm going to take your picture. Smile. Okay.
John Wahey is here. Yeah, we got quite a crowd. Okay, Hayley is first. Hayley is going to present.
So everybody knows we send out the show information form 2 days before your show. And if we haven't received anything, then the day before, because that's when it's due, we buy then so we can send you and your guest the calendar entry confirmation, the Zoom link, and the appearance guidelines. And so we can put it in our daily advisory and promote your show to our audience the next morning. The first two fields, title and tagline, it's how your show is identified. It should be clear, short, easy to remember, 30 to 50 characters, but can do a maximum of 70, depending on what those characters are. The guest information, name and affiliation that shows up on screen lets the audience know who your guest is. If the guest name has an extra title, for example, Dr. insert name here, we would prefer it to be name here, comma, PhD, MD, etc. And then we need the email address of your guest so we can send them all of the emails regarding the show, the Zoom link, the YouTube link after the show, and their cell phone number in case there's any technical difficulties or if we have any trouble contacting them through just their email. It has happened before, so we do need their cell phone number. Their email address and cell phone number will not be made public. It's not going to be posted on screen unless the host or guest asks us to do that. So it's fine. The discussion contemplated is the next field. It should be in a paragraph format. It lets the audience know what you're going to be talking about, hence the name. Full sentences, not a bullet point list, and 1,000 characters maximum, so not too long. Then there's the takeaway contemplated, which is a short summary of the show, the episode. It should be about a sentence or two because it's 300 characters maximum, and it's what you want the audience to take away from the discussion. The search keywords are what people are likely to search on, and it helps potential viewers find your show. So they search a word and they might be directed to your show if it has the matching search keyword. It should be separated by commas and not line breaks because that's the way that it's delimited on YouTube. And those are all of the fields. So once you complete the show information form, please proofread it and double check your show information because it goes in our database, Kallander, YouTube, other platforms, Instagram, and back again to our website. You need to especially double check the episode title, tagline, and guest name and affiliation because those appear on screen. And if there's any mistakes in it, it could be difficult to edit in post. Okay, and for show cancellations, if there is a show cancellation that has to be made, please let us know as soon as possible. Telling us the day before or the same day can create problems for us. And if you're canceling because you're unable to do the show, but you have the guests lined up and you have all of the information, then please let us know because we may be able to host it for you.
Hayley, how do they notify us about cancellation? They telephone, email?
Yeah, so all communications regarding shows should be sent to shows@thinktechhawaii.com. That way all of the staff gets all of the information that we need. And another reminder for Zoom links, please click on them 15 minutes before the show, not any sooner. If it says the host has another meeting in progress, just wait patiently because the show previous to yours might have gone over. Yeah, so there's nothing wrong there, you just have to wait. There's no particular time that we need the form back the day before the show, just by the night before the show is best. But as soon as possible, because we do want to get all of the information, the appearance guidelines so your guests can prepare for the show, and the Zoom link to your guests. We don't want to send it at like midnight when they're asleep.
Someone asked how we send them the media.
You can attach it to your email.
Have to email shows@thinktechhawaii.com.
Yeah.
The next speaker is Rusty Kamari, and he's going to talk about preparation for shows using the teleprompter and the chat box if you're not in the studio, and sending image, which we covered a minute ago. So Rusty, what have you got?
Well, hello, everybody. Let me just share with you what I do in terms of preparation. And the first thing I do is I really study my guest well. So whether I ask them for a bio or I go on Google to Google them and to really kind of learn about who my guest is and what they do, that really helps me in terms of the questions that I ask. And the other big thing that I do in terms of preparation is I try to think about 3 main areas of topics. So whether I'm going to ask them about their culture or why they're successful, or about a challenging situation that they've been through, and then I can ask follow-up questions about that. So it's really important in terms of preparation to ask lead-in questions for your guests, because I find that when I do that, I'm able to ask really good follow-up questions depending on what they answer. And you can kind of gauge the time in terms of that, because if they answer too quickly, then you can ask more follow-ups so that they can expand on that. Regarding the teleprompter, I like to have a really clear introduction and then a clear finish. And I like to tie both things together. I think it's good to ultimately strive to not use a teleprompter, because it's going to add more confidence to you. I've done a couple shows where I haven't used a teleprompter, and it gave me more confidence to really do the show even better. And then especially when there's like some technical difficulties at times with the prompter, that allows you to just kind of move forward with it. Using less pictures is often better than using more pictures, because you don't want to take away from the quality of the conversation that you're having with the guest, but at the same time, the picture enhances what you're talking about in the conversation. If a picture is not so clear, then I often don't add that to the show. I like to try to keep things as quality as possible with the show and with the pictures as well. But I like that pictures does add a different dimension to the show. Regarding a chat box, I haven't used the chat box yet. I don't know about the chat box. It just seems like when I'm doing the show, it just goes by so quickly, and we don't really have time for other stuff to do. But you want to expand on that, Jay, at all, the chat box?
Yeah, well, we wanted to have a way to do teleprompter without being in the studio, and one possibility was that you would send in your text to the engineer, and he would post it on the or she would post it on the chat box, and you could look at it.
That's how we give you the viewer's question. So you see, if you're on a computer now and you put your pointer down at the bottom, you see a whole bunch of icons. There's one that says chat.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? Open that up, and you'll see on the one side of your window a state of chats. And so far, Wendy, Melissa, Catherine, Derek, we've all been talking to each other. So that is where we can chat with you. That's where you're going to have a viewer question posted.
So we had thought that maybe this would be a way to emulate a prompter. In other words, either you put it up on the chat or somebody else puts it up on the chat for you and you read it off the chat box. I have to say, I don't know if anybody's actually done that, but I'll tell you what I do. On the same screen, I bring up a word processor or a Word program like TextEdit or something, and I put my copy right on there. And I move it around as necessary so it's not in the way. And I read the material or my notes. It isn't necessarily prompter kind of copy. It could be just my notes for the show. And I put it over Zoom so I can always see it. And it's really a tremendous advantage to do that. So I think that actually for me is a better option than putting it on the chat box, because I want to see the questions come in on the chat box. And if you have a lot of copy on the chat box, you can't you can't see the questions. So it's better to have this other box where you put your prompter copy. So you might try that. You guys might try that in order to achieve a prompter effect, even though you're not in the studio with the prompter. Okay, the next one is, it's me. So even when we reopen, so to speak, we're still going to have a lot of guests by remote anywhere in the world. So what we need to do is all understand, the best setup. So a laptop is best, although you can use a phone. You can even use a tablet. The laptop, of course, has to have a camera in it, of course. It has to have a mic in it. With the camera, you want to make sure that, and our engineers will talk to you about this, that you're in the middle of the screen. You want to look at the way you present. They'll talk to you about framing. Okay, the broadband, we have to rely on you to know if you have decent broadband. We're not going to tell you the specs for it, but you know if you have. And we had one show where somebody used a hotspot from a telephone. That didn't work. You want to use actual wireless or even better, a cable broadband. Zoom 5.0 is out. It's got extra things in it, so when you get a chance, download it. If you don't download it in about a week, it's going to download itself for you. But you need to familiarize yourself with Zoom, and Eric and Melissa will talk about Zoom in a little while. External mics. So, of course, the laptop will have a mic. The phone will have a mic. If you want to do better, and we always want to do better, you can go get a cheap mic and you can attach it in the mini port on the laptop, and have to set in settings. You have to set in settings so that you're referring the sound from that mic. But if you had a lavalier, which you could get cheap, I would say Radio Shack, but there is no Radio Shack, so you have to go to Amazon. You might get a pretty decent mic for just a few bucks. On headsets, I'm wearing a headset now. Probably the better thing, if you want the best sound possible with the least offensive image, is to just get one of those little earbud things. A lot of you are doing it already, and you can get a combination. You can use with your laptop or your phone, you can use one of those combinations where you have the earbuds and the mic. If you look at network, you'll see that's what they do. Or you can get those wireless earbuds. They're very good. Sometimes it's an issue setting them up, but they're very good. Let's see, lighting. Our engineers will step you through this, and they'll step your guests through this. The big thing is framing and lighting. You want to get some light on your face. You don't want to be a dark silhouette. Window light is very good. It makes you look like a Vermeer. We all want to look like a Vermeer, don't we? Am I right? Look at yourself, but the engineers will also be looking at you. Desk lamps are helpful. If you have a desk lamp, just point it at your face. I mean, in my regular place, which is in another part of my house, I like 3 desk lamps pointing, and I keep adjusting it so I get the right lighting. You can do that. Green screen. I used to think, well, green screens are helpful. What Katharine has a green screen she's making. Other people may have green screens. In order to do the Zoom background, you really have to have a green screen. Katharine can tell us later how it worked out for her. I use a green screen. I like green screens, but it's a bit of a hassle. And the one point I make though is don't press the background button if you don't have a green screen. It doesn't work properly. And you get artifacts all around you. Just have a nice presentable wall behind you. Okay, and if you have an issue, call me. I think about this stuff all day long. I mean, we learned a lot of things in the studio, and certainly we're learning about Zoom. I would like us to be the best Zoom operators in the world. I say the world. So we're going to get better and better every show. Better lighting, better framing, better sound, better video, the whole episode. And so watch other shows to see how they do. Not only are the shows on ThinkTech, watch how they do on PBS, watch how they do on CNBC. And remember, our mission is to be better than they are, better than any of them. Okay, I'm done. That's it. The next person up is Eric and Melissa. They're going to talk about the tips that they would give you to frame you up to get the lighting right, the tips they would give the guests likewise to do that. So Eric and Melissa have sorted out these points that we have in the guidelines.
Vice number 1 is basically what Jay said. Well, unless you have a green screen or a nice clean wall, don't do the Zoom virtual backgrounds. Trust me, it's, people don't really care about the background. They're listening to you. Rule number 2, you want to be eye level with the camera. So if you can see the ceiling, that's probably a bad sign. That means you're not eye level with the camera. You're getting like a chin shot. And we want you to be front on. And then advice number 3, a lot of people, when they do Zoom calls, will just do their heads. They think that it's okay to be a talking head, but we also want your body. So our advice is that 3/4 of your screen should be you, and then you should have your shoulders and head. That's my 3 points.
That's very good. That's very succinct. Okay, moving right along. Eric, I guess you have the other points then, eh?
As far as the device you use to use a Zoom, laptops or a desktop or a tablet, that's what we want. Phones that's the last thing you want to use. Like if you have nothing else, use a phone, but otherwise use a computer. The next one is, hold on. So it only happened during a couple of shows. We had other people come in. They weren't part of the show. They were just there to tag along. If you're going to be in the show, you need to be in for the entire show, because when you come in and out of the Zoom, it switches around all the framings. So it's fine if people want to be in there. We just have to make sure you're in there for the whole show. Moving on. All the hosts, keep your chat box open. It's always have it open like it is on the side over here, because we'll write stuff to you, questions, timer, that kind of stuff.
Eric, can you talk about the bells or the sounds we're going to use starting Monday?
I'm going to get a couple of I'm going to try to find some chimes and bells and rings, and they're going to all be different meanings. One of them's going to be, you have a question to look at, 2 minutes to close, 3 minutes to close. I'll figure out which ones for those. But coming in for your next shows, I'm going to have some sort of bells and whistle system to alert you guys, as well as the chat. I'll still type in the chat, so you guys can read them as well.
The bell will signify that there's a question in your chat box. Even if your chat box is open, you may miss it. You may not see it come up. So the bell will alert you that there's a question being posted.
When graphics are too wordy, it doesn't look so well on TV, because you could just, say the words instead. So if you have a lot of graphics with a ton of words on them, try to avoid those. Try to be more graphic, not so much words.
Eric, there's a question about the bell in the chat. I don't know if you want to answer it.
Oh, there it is. No, so the bell, even the microphone, we talk into the mic, that does not get recorded. That only goes to the people on the Zoom call. So whatever you hear from us is not recorded on the broadcast.
Like our heads now and shoulders are about what is wanted, or are we too small? I mean, it seems like we got a lot of background showing.
Almost everyone is pretty good now, because if you've seen our shows, we see that we make squares, so we crop a lot of the background, so only like this much should show.
Yeah, okay.
And another one thing to add on to that is when you're try to stay in the same position throughout the show, don't without leaning back or leaning too close, because it messes up with our frames as well. So try to stay put as much as you can.
And because sometimes I've thought like my head was real tiny and the other people's head was bigger. So
we try to match them as much as we can. Yeah. But if everyone has a similar shot, it makes it so much easier to match you guys.
I see Mark Schwab. Mark, I see your ceiling a lot, so you might want to lower yours. And Chuck Crumpton, when you're talking, you're looking at another camera. You're not looking into the screen. I'm just pointing out. Okay.
Yeah, we had one show a few days ago where the guest was looking at another computer, another monitor or something, and she was reading from her notes the whole time, and she was not looking at the camera. It was really a problem, and she kept doing it even though we had a recess and a break to tell her not to do that. You have to look at the camera. Otherwise, it looks like you're getting cues from someone else. It isn't really you, that you're being sly somehow. You've got to look at the camera. You got to talk to the camera, the people. So if you're going to have notes, either have them on that little text edit thing on your screen, or if you want to have paper, have it right in front of you. The closer to the camera, the better. And P.S., Eric, I love your hat. And as an engineer, you can wear a hat all day long. But I would suggest you discourage people from wearing hats. You see the way Eric's face is in shadow? It'll never, never mind.
I had another meeting I was at, so.
Oh, that's okay, John. We're recording this and you can look at it later.
We can also take questions on the chat and respond to you after the show, after this meeting, okay?
Yeah, so open up your chat box and write some questions if you want.
I mean, did you say, Melissa, that if we have nothing on the wall, if the wall is really blank, and even though it's white, we can try those backgrounds and they'll work better?
The white backgrounds gives us problems, unfortunately, but you can try like a blanket. That might work.
A blanket?
No one tried that yet. That's just a theory.
A blanket?
Yeah. Well, we'll tell you if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I think you can save time by just cleaning up the area behind you. I mean, we had sort of extraordinary times with people's laundry baskets and so just be conscious of what's behind you. Okay, Katharine, you are next, and you're going to talk to us about this is a hard one, handling questions to guests and questions from viewers, and in general, conducting, the Q&A of the show.
Good afternoon, everyone. Since I've been an attorney for over 30 years, and my fellow attorneys like Mark and Chuck and John understand that what we do for a living is ask questions of claimants or plaintiffs or defendants. And so essentially doing ThinkTech and asking questions of guests is very similar in a way, more to me like an examination under oath, because what I'm doing is becoming very curious with the guest. I'm approaching each guest with curiosity. What I do in terms of questions is I ask the guest to provide me 10 questions, and I can at least view those. It doesn't mean I'm going to ask the questions. It means that I have an idea of what questions they want to answer, and also whether, kind of where they're coming from. Then I analyze that, come up with a plan, and then I have a discussion with the guest. And we talk about kind of what, like Rusty said, about 3 areas. I usually have a plan for the first portion, and then I have a plan for the second portion. And I will communicate with them about how it's going during the break. One of the most important things is not just the questions you ask. In fact, more important is listening to what the guest has to say. Because what they're saying, you're going to connect your next question to what they're saying. And if you don't do that, it's going to be disjointed. It's more relaxed and natural if you're listening and making a good flow of question and answer. And unfortunately, there are challenges, of course, because some guests do get into a monologue and talk and talk and talk, and it's very difficult for you to get a word in edgewise. What I do is in advance, I tell them that I'm going to be taking a break and where that break will be, and that they should speak in paragraphs or sentences, not monologues. So I make sure that I've explained that up front. But not all guests are the same. Some guests will be better in a monologue, and some will be better in a question and answer format. It just depends. Sometimes you're going to have to interrupt your guest in order to move them along or to have a break. The number of questions will vary depending on the guest and their style. And now I will discuss handling questions from the chat box or questions from the submitters. First of all, you need to thank the submitter. They're often anonymous, and you can just simply, thank whoever submitted the question. And it's okay to rephrase the question. And
we do set it up as anonymous. You will generally, you will not see the name of the person who submitted it.
Okay.
But thank the person in general, right? Whoever submitted it, thank that submitter.
Absolutely. And you may have to rephrase the question, and you may simply ignore the question if it's irrelevant and doesn't fit within the context of the show. And you'll want to answer the questions at the right time, where it fits the best in the show. And then I just wanted to let you know, I am actually, I know you're surprised, I am not on the beach. This is actually a green screen. It was a green cloth that I had bought as a green screen. Someone mentioned the possibility of using a blanket. Unfortunately, I used that cloth by trying to attach it to my wall behind me. That was extremely unsuccessful. So I ordered a frame and attached it to the frame, and that's working really well now. And today I got a ring light, and that's a much better lighting situation for me. Ring light is, let's see if we can show you. That's what a ring light is.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually have too many banker's boxes piled up, so I don't have it positioned perfectly. But ultimately, I will sort that out, and it will be better positioned.
Okay. Can I ask also, what's the green screen? You said you bought a piece of cloth for a green screen. Do you just a green colored thing? What?
Well, I actually ordered a green screen and didn't pay that much attention to it, and it turned out to be a green cloth with no stand, and I was highly disappointed with that. And then I tried to order the one that Jay recommended. However, they don't ship to Hawaii, and they were actually almost out anyway. And then I came up with the brilliant idea of buying a stand and attaching it, and it was a lot cheaper. I probably saved about $100 by doing that. And I got the stand delivered to me in 48 hours from the well, I don't know where it was, probably from the mainland.
So what kind of stand did you get?
It's a stand, display stand. It's actually, when you look on Amazon under green screens, you will see stands, the green cloth, you'll see pop-up green screens, you'll see all sorts.
Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we can help you. We can help you make selections. If you take a look at Amazon or B&H Photo, they have lots and lots of them.
I find it hard to concentrate on listening to my guests and monitoring the time, and I just can't multitask that well. So I had asked a question, and maybe we can have it answered later. Is could we have a separate Zoom screen that shows the time counting down for everybody to see, but that the people don't see it at home? I don't know if that's possible.
We could do that. It's just a matter of we'd have to test with it to see how well it works.
Can we get back to what you were going to report on?
Yes, when it's time to wrap it up. Thank your guest. Thank ThinkTech. Tell them to watch the other shows and view more online, because this is the place for all the smart people, or to get smart.
Let me step in with you. And on the opening, you don't have to give a 10-minute bio. You don't want to do that. Put it in 1 or 2 sentences maybe, and then weave it into the Q&A during the show. That's far better than going through somebody's CV. Okay, you just want to identify the person and say what in general that the person does, but nobody wants to hear a long bio at the beginning. And taking breaks, I don't take breaks except when I need to. But let me say, the engineers are really good about that. They'll be listening for you. And if you say you want to take a break, they'll let you do that. They'll handle the break. And finally, on the closing thing, if you watch Don Lemon, my hero, or any of the other guys on the networks, they close very abruptly. And that's what you've got to do. It's hard to do that. I think we all have trouble with that. But you're going to hear a chime or a bell that'll let you know it's time to wind up. And you don't wind up immediately on the bell. It just gives you a little time to finish the thought and then say bye.
If you have any questions or suggestions for our next meeting, send them to shows and we will respond, and we will let everybody know if it affects everybody.